Alright, so this is my presentation on Liberia and the Back to Africa movement. Alright, so the first two questions. Liberia was founded on January 7th, 1822, and it is found along the coast of West Africa between Sierra Leone, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, and the Atlantic Ocean. The kind of government that Liberia has had since its founding is the same as the USA, the same structure and everything, with a president, judicial, legislative, and executive branches of government, which is practically the exact same thing with the US government. So the role that the United States or individual states had in Liberia over the years is quite a lot. The U.S. has diplomatic relations with Liberia for over 200 decades. They have helped with professionalizing Liberia's military and civilian security forces, consolidating democratic processes, promoting broad-based market-driven economic growth, improving access to high-quality educational and health services, and also helping Liberia to plan, develop, and implement and sustain its own development efforts. The U.S. has partnered with numerous international organizations / donors, example World Health Organization and Civil Society, to strengthen health systems in Liberia. Their assistance is critical to Liberia's long-term development. So the history of Christianity in Liberia. Christianity came with former American slaves who brought their religion with them when they found Liberia. As conflict continued to arise throughout Christians, Muslims, and tribal religions, Christians became dominating. Christians continued to grow and grow until more than 85% of its population were Christians, although they did branch out into different denominations, the United Methodist Church being the largest. Today, many denominations of Christianity are held in Liberia, including Lutheran, Baptist, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, Roman Catholic, United Methodist, African Methodist, Episcopal, Zionist, and Pentecostal. Muslims or Islams are in the minority, with only about 12.2% of the population being Muslims. So some of the central reasons for the disarray in Liberia are civil wars, hunger, disease, elections, and wounds. Alright, so some of the neighboring countries to Liberia and their relationship with Liberia. So Sierra Leone and Guinea are some of the neighboring countries to Liberia. Liberia has not had a good relationship with Sierra Leone, especially since Charles Taylor, who was a former warlord, president of Sierra Leone, invaded Liberia in 1990, which left thousands of Liberians dead. Liberia has closed the border with Sierra Leone twice. Liberia has taken their ambassador away from Sierra Leone and expelled Sierra Leone ambassador. With Guinea, the border has been closed one time to prevent disease. There's been a lot of tension over the years between them because of many attacks which came from both sides, but the relationship has been getting a little better. And the way African American Liberians have gotten along with immigrants depends on what country they're from. If they were, for example, from the Ivory Coast, the Liberians saw them as a problem. But if they're from a place like Guinea, they received humanitarian aid from the Guinean government, so depending on which country they were from. And yes, I did notice areas where American customs, interests, or habits showed up. Example of these would be with the government, presidential elections, the executive, judicial, and legislative branches of the United States government, with Liberia's Declaration of Independence, their belief system, their flag, and many more things. Alright, so I think it was a good idea back then, at least in part, for the African colony for free blacks. I saw in my research that Liberia has a lot in common with the USA, from the way they run their government to the Declaration of Independence and more. It would be a lot like the USA, although the USA itself would have been best. There are many denominations in Liberia, just like there are in America, and they wouldn't have been short of non-believers. They would have had a strong community, probably a lot better than in America, for sharing their faith and their beliefs. There are some hard stuff in Liberia, but every country has its problems. Liberia and America have so much in common, and if America let all the African free blacks into their country, I think there would have been a lot of problems, especially since the whites were not accepting of the blacks back then. Although racism is most prominent today, I still think it would have been in part of America back then. This way the blacks had their own community full of believers, and they didn't have to deal with things that would certainly break out if they were allowed in America. And here are my works cited page.